Most students make the mistake of thinking FA1 is just about basic bookkeeping, some mechanical debit-credit exercise that accountants do in a back office. The reality is very different. FA1 is the foundation of business itself. Every billion-dollar decision, every merger, every shareholder update, every tax filing begins with the same building blocks you're about to learn. Think about this for a second. Imagine Apple selling a single iPhone for $1,000. On the surface, it looks like a simple sale. But how do they record it? Who gets to see it? How do they prove it to regulators, shareholders, and investors? What happens if they enter it wrongly? If they overstate or understate, the stock price, the company valuation, and the CEO's credibility are all on the line. That is the power of FA1. This is not just a subject. It's the language of business. Without it, nothing in finance, economics, or corporate decision-making makes sense. Think of it like this. You're learning the alphabet before writing novels. FA1 is that alphabet. You can't build skyscrapers if you don't know how to lay bricks, and FA1 is where you start laying them. But here's the part most people ignore. If you truly understand FA1, you will never struggle with advanced papers. If you skip it, if you just cram debit and credit, the entire ACCA journey becomes a nightmare. And that's why this lecture series is different. We're not just going to memorize. We're going to live accounting. Now let's face a blunt truth. 90% of students who fail FA1 do so because they treat debit and credit as random rules. They try to remember that debit is left, credit is right, debit increases this, credit decreases that. They make tables, they chant like robots, and the moment the question changes, they're lost. The truth? Debit and credit are not rules. They're a story of money moving from one pocket to another. Let me give you an example you'll never forget. Imagine walking into Starbucks and paying $5 for a coffee. On Starbucks books, what happens? Cash increases, that's debit cash. Revenue increases, that's credit sales. Simple. You gave them money, they gave you coffee. Now flip it. Suppose Starbucks gives a refund. They debit sales, credit cash. The story reversed. Every debit and credit is just the movement of money, of value, from one place to another. Once you see it as a story, it never feels mechanical again. Let's take another case study. Imagine a student named Aisha who keeps confusing debit and credit. She memorizes the rules but panics during questions. One day she starts treating every transaction as a story instead. She buys groceries with cash. Debit groceries, credit cash. She sells her old phone for $200. Debit cash, credit sales. Suddenly the fog clears. She's not memorizing anymore. She's living accounting. That's the transformation FA1 is supposed to give you. And once you get that, the next concept becomes natural: cash versus credit transactions. Let's be honest, most of us only think in terms of cash. You walk into a shop, you pay, you get your item. But business doesn't run on cash alone. Businesses survive and thrive because of credit. Imagine Amazon selling millions of products. Do you think every customer pays instantly? No. There are credit cards, buy now pay later options, wholesale orders on credit. Or think of Tesla buying raw materials. They don't hand over billions in cash to suppliers the same day. They buy on credit, agree to pay later. In FA1, when we record these, we have to show not just cash but receivables and payables. That's how the empire of business runs. The saying is true, cash is king, but credit runs the empire. Without credit, no business could scale globally. And FA1 teaches you how to capture that credit reality in books. Here's a case study to make it stick. Imagine Amazon sells you a Kindle for $100 on credit. Amazon records debit accounts receivable, credit sales. They haven't received cash yet, but they have a claim. When you pay, they debit cash, credit receivable. Simple, but powerful. Now imagine Tesla buys raw materials worth $1 million on credit. Debit raw materials, credit accounts payable. When they finally pay, debit payable, credit cash. Once you see this in real businesses, you'll never forget it. Now, let's move to something most students dread: the books of prime entry. People memorize sales daybook, purchases daybook, cash book, journal, but they don't connect them to life. Let's do that now. Sales daybook? That's simply Amazon's order records. Every time you place an order, Amazon doesn't instantly send it to accounts. First, it goes into the sales daybook, a detailed record. Purchases daybook? That's Tesla recording all the invoices it gets from suppliers. Cash book? That's just your bank statement. Think of your Netflix subscription. Every month, Netflix automatically deducts money. On their books, that goes into the cash book. Journal? That's where unusual or correcting entries go. Here's the blunt truth. If you ignore books of prime entry, you're basically saying Jeff Bezos tracks Amazon orders on sticky notes. Impossible. These books exist because without them, the entire accounting system collapses into chaos. And then comes the trial balance. The first real checkpoint in accounting. Think of it as a scale. One side is debit, one side is credit. If they don't balance, something's wrong. Now, why does this matter? Imagine Apple announcing billions in sales. If their trial balance is off, investors lose trust. One unbalanced trial balance can destroy credibility overnight. That's why businesses treat it as a reality check. Here's a visualization. Imagine two scales. On one side, you've got $1,000 debit. On the other, $1,000 credit. Balanced. Perfect. Now imagine one wrong entry. Say, you recorded $10,000 instead of $1,000. Suddenly the scale tilts. That imbalance signals that something's off. Trial balance is not just about numbers, it's about. If this doesn't balance, your entire business story collapses. And yet, errors happen. Humans make mistakes. That's where suspense accounts come in. Let's take a real scenario. A junior accountant at a company mistakenly records $10,000 instead of $1,000. Suddenly, the trial balance is off by $9,000. The company can't publish statements with this imbalance, but they also don't know exactly where the mistake lies. Enter suspense account. Debit or credit suspense with the difference. Keep the books balanced temporarily. And continue operations until the error is found. Suspense accounts are like safety nets for billion-dollar businesses. They don't prevent mistakes, but they keep the system functioning while you fix them. Think about how powerful that is. Even if one entry could cause chaos, the suspense account saves the company from total breakdown. Now, here's the part most FA1 students never connect: financial statements. They pass the exam, but if you ask them how day-to-day transactions turn into an income statement or balance sheet, they freeze. That's the real loss. Because FA1 is not about memorizing. It's about seeing how the small connects to the big. Let me show you with a Netflix example. You pay $10 for a subscription. Netflix debits cash, credits revenue. Then it goes to the ledger. From there, it gets included in the trial balance. When all transactions are compiled, Netflix produces an income statement, showing subscription revenue as part of income. From one small $10 transaction, you can trace the journey to Netflix's billion-dollar income statement. Every time you pay Netflix, you're writing their financial statement for them. That's how real it is. Imagine another student scenario. Arjun, who studied FA1 only to pass exams, never connected the dots. He could post journal entries, he could balance a trial balance, but when asked how those numbers translate to a financial statement, he was stuck. He passed, but in job interviews, he couldn't explain. Compare him to Zara, who saw every transaction as part of a business story. When she paid her Spotify subscription, she thought, debit expense, credit cash. She saw how that expense would later show up in Spotify's income statement. In an interview, she confidently explained this flow. Guess who got the job? FA1, if studied correctly, gives you practical business literacy that employers value. And to end the journey, we don't just want theory, we want simulation. Imagine you're running your own mini business. I hand you £500. You record it, debit cash, credit capital. You buy goods worth £200, debit purchases, credit cash. You sell some for £300, debit cash, credit sales. You pay rent of £50, debit expense, credit cash. At the end, you prepare your trial balance, and finally your financial statements. This isn't just practice, it's reality. Passing FA1 isn't about studying accounting. It's about running your own business, on paper. If you can do this simulation, you can do accounting for any company in the world. So next time someone tells you FA1 is just basic bookkeeping, remember this: it's the DNA of business. Without it, there is no finance, no auditing, no taxation, no strategic decisions. And by mastering FA1, you're not just learning a subject. You're learning the foundation of how the world of money actually works.